So I've always been a very big fan of what some would call the second golden age of American wrestling, that period from the early 80s through to the early mid-90s where the sport was dominated by the WWF and the WCW, and it hit the UK really hard in the early 90s particularly, and got all the figures. And I was talking about this to one of my pals, and they said that their big brother had made them a homemade wrestling ring to use with the action figures back in the day because they didn't have the ring. I actually had the ring, and I still have the ring now, but I just thought that was amazing, and I remembered how much I would make my own toys out of cardboard. I used to really enjoy that, and I was actually pretty lucky. I had a few of the big ticket items like the Cat Slayer playset and whatnot, but I would make, particularly mask toys, I'd make like mask vehicles, and I distinctly remember making a very elaborate Turtles, the sewer base, before I got the proper Turtles sewer playset. And actually that thing might have been a mask vehicle now I think about it, because you can fit 6 of the guys in the pockets, right? Pretty cool. Anyway, so I thought about this, and I'd made myself a life-size Beetlejuice grave out of papier-mâché cardboard for Halloween, and I really enjoyed that. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to make a wrestling ring for myself, even though, like I say, I have the real one, and I had back when I was a kid. I'm going to make a wrestling ring just out of some stuff that I found around the house. And of course, I was inspired not only by the great Bobby Fingers, whose regular make videos are just some of the best content around, and you should definitely check those out. But also, I found a video of somebody that restored one of the old plastic wrestling rings, which is not what we're doing here, but that's still that joy of playing with the wrestling ring, and what a beautiful object it is. Really inspired me. So let's have a look. Let's see how I did making my own homemade wrestling ring. All of the stuff I just had in my house, and it would have been stuff that I had when I was a kid. I cheated on 2 things. I bought this wrestling magazine because I don't actually have any wrestling magazines around at the moment, but I would have when I was a kid. It came with this cutout poster, and I bought this elastic as well, because I would have thought I had this in my house, but I didn't have the right kind of elastic. And again, I would have had some elastic when I was a kid. I could have used rubber bands, didn't really want to, but everything else was lying around my house already, and is the kind of thing I would have had when I was a kid. This is the box from some of the records that my record company sent to me. It's got that seam in the middle, and I was going to cover it up, but I actually think that's quite nice to have that seam. One of the sides is a bit bendy. So the first thing I did was tape down this little bit. I didn't want to cut the edges. I taped down this little bit of tape with some glue, and immediately sprang back up. Look at that. So then I taped it down. I didn't want to cut the flaps of the box, because then I knew that would make the box wonky when it stood up. So I wanted to get everything flush so that when I turned on its end, it would be straight. Tape down the little flaps in the middle. Want to make that middle as strong as possible. It's going to come in for some beating there. I cut off the side flaps to an agreeable length that I knew that I'd be able to reuse that cardboard later. Snippity, snippity, snip. And then I got them to use for later. And then I cut down, in diagonals, because otherwise when you fold it in, it would fight against each other. And then I'm going to, fold these flaps in to strengthen that slightly weak wall at the back there. This was actually a little cheap, because when I was a kid, I would use Pritt Stick, and I would stuck it down with tape, and it would come unstuck. Nightmare. And I made it easier myself and used my glue gun. Didn't have a glue gun when I was a kid. But you can see how the edge is nice and flat there. I did that on all of them and strengthened that slightly wobbly wall. And so now we've got a pretty sturdy base to work on. Pretty chuffed with that, and that middle, and it's going to need some strengthening up. So I took one of the pieces of card that I had measured with the sides of the box and turned it into sort of a little table thing, folded it into 4, and then I added it to the base of the thing on the inside, the wrestling ring. So then when I turn it over, that's going to have some real strong support. Yeah, look at that. You can body slam on that all day. So then I got these pencils. I had a big stack of pencils, and I found 4 that were the right color, and I just pushed them in the corners. I didn't want to cut or get too scientific with it. I just pushed them right in. I think they're going to make great posts. Obviously they're woggly now, but then when I put the ropes around them, they'll pull inwards. They're kind of the right height. I got gold dust in here. They're not really tall enough, so I decided to get some of that missing cardboard and make some little bumpers, just to bump them up on the bottom so the pencils stand a bit taller against the figures. They're pretty much there, but you know, if we're gonna do it properly. So I made these little bumpers, and then again with a little bit of the glue gun. I feel so guilty for using the glue gun. Put the glue gun in the corners there, so that when I push the posts in, the wrestling posts, they'll just stand a little bit taller. Put them all the way around. Pretty cool. All these filaments everywhere, and see now they're a better height. Yeah, I feel better about that. So, and also that middle is strong. And then I marked them up with the 3 sort of notches where I imagined the rope will eventually go. Took them all out. It's time to start painting the box. I found this blue that I used on my Las Vegas sign that I made for my wedding. Perfect color. I don't think quite electric blue, I don't know. But it just started slapping on. I'm not very patient, just slapping it on. What a find though. Did the edges in the bottom first, so it could dry, and then I get on with some other stuff. But starting to be really excited about it. This looks great. Then I went back to the pencils, taped them together, and tried to cut notches in for the ropes with a pair of scissors. Got pretty bored pretty quickly. Started to use a hacksaw. I would have had a hacksaw when I was a kid, but I would have probably persevered with the scissors. Looked pretty good, those notches. Yeah, just colored them in with a marker pen here. I could have painted them. I think I probably got some black paint somewhere, but I thought marker pen's quicker and a bit truer to how I would have done it when I was a kid, basically. Wrestling ring looks pretty good. Let's put these posts back in here so we can work out what to do with our elastic. So I brought in the elastic here. What I didn't realize is obviously the elastic's going to be very stretchy, right? And I brought like 7 meters of this stuff. Could have got away with half a foot. And stretching it round. Got to make sure they're all taut, because the wrestlers are going to bounce off them in a minute. Ping. Oh, my God. Got a bit cocky there. Tied it again. Nice and tight. Let's see, test the springability. Yes, pretty good. Brought it back in. Did another coat of paint, pulling all these filaments off the side from the glue gun. That'll teach me to use glue gun. Second coat, looking pretty good. Put that to dry while I sort out the rest of the wrestling ropes. Instead of going around the ring 2 more times, I just measured it. I just matched the first one. And then began the laborious process of coloring him in. Again, I could have bought colored string, but I thought I'd color him in. Took ages. Got the wrestling ring back in. Just put some more, just a tiny little extra bumper on these, just to make those posts stand even taller. Put them on the bottom. You can't really see them, but they, you know, you can work out how it's going to work. More coloring in. Really, this was the most time expensive part of the process, and maybe even the least enjoyable. But, you know, it ended up looking good. Look at that. Like the tricolore there. Fantastique. And now the bit I was really looking forward to is just slopping the paint on the top. That electric blue. Starting to look really great here. Very impatient painter. I did a couple of coats on the side, just matching it all up. Really excited by this point. Off it goes. And now I'm going to cut out the WWF logo from the magazine. There was one on the front, but I wanted to get the one that had the poster in the middle. They're actually the same size. I thought the one on the front would be the same size. The one on the front has got Diesel's hair in the way, and this has got like paper clips in the middle. I'm going to use the one from the poster anyway, because I don't want Diesel's hair on it. And sacrilege, you know. Cutting up a wrestling poster. I would have been tempted to draw this probably when I was a kid, but I did regularly cut up my wrestling magazines, so it's actually, again, it's quite true to how I would have behaved when I was a kid. I don't feel too bad about it, and it's for the greater good to get that excellent logo in the middle of the wrestling ring there, just like it is on the real thing. Very excited now. So I bring the wrestling ring back in. I didn't bother filming painting the second coat because, you know, who wants to see that? It looks amazing. Colors dried up real nice. Very excited. I'm going to lay out the logo on there. It's a little bit smaller than it is on the real thing, but I mean, who's counting? Counting? Who's measuring? A little bit of Pritt stick. Flatten it down. Oh, so cool. It looks so great. Even watching it back here, I'm just as excited as I was. Whoop! And then let's get the posts in. Make sure I got them the right way around. Push them all in. And a 1. A 2. A 3 and a 4. This one is a little bit woggly in the corner there, but we'll sort that out. Great. It's the right shape, it's the right size. And then we'll get our ropes in here. And the blue is actually a little bit light blue, but what are you gonna do? Again, who's counting colors? Bit tense, they've got to be quite tight in order to spring the wrestlers. So, but the pencils, look, the pencils are holding up. And it's all working out. And here comes the white one, the one that I managed to least dirty up with my painty hands. I didn't bother to wash my hands. And now all the posts are pulling towards each other really straight, pushing against the outside of the cardboard and pulling towards each other with the ropes. The red rope, the tightest rope, really took some doing to get it over in those notches. But I got there eventually, and the knot's in the wrong place. I had to pull the knot until it was level. And that's kind of it. It's done, springy. It looks amazing. I chuffed to bits. And gonna get some wrestlers in there. Got Doink. And I got Goldust. Let's have a match between Doink and Goldust. Let's test the strength of those ropes. Oh, look at that. A savage attack from Doink. Goldust gets his own back. Doink returns. Slam off the top rope. This is the greatest. And best of all is that I got nowhere to put this, and I actually have the real one. So if you want it, you can win it. Members of my Patreon can win this wrestling ring. I'll post it to you wherever you live. If you go on my Patreon, sign up to one of the tiers. I've got a bronze tier, a silver tier, a gold tier, and a diamond tier. And on my Patreon tomorrow will be a question and details of how to win the wrestling ring, right? So there was the advert at the end. But even if you don't join the Patreon and you don't want to win the wrestling ring, I hope you've enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed putting it together. I'm chuffed to bits. And thanks to Bobby Fingers for inspiring me, and my friend who told me the story. And long live WWF.